Israel recently committed the largest child massacre in its history. The numbers are not reported elsewhere in the Israeli media, and if they are, it's always scandalously mitigated. Now, these are not my words. These are from the Israeli newspaper Haaretz. This week, Netanyahu unilaterally broke the ceasefire in Gaza. In fact, Israel has continued to kill Palestinians throughout the ceasefire, and no one seriously believed that Netanyahu had the remotest intention of moving to the second stage of that ceasefire. And had Hamas killed 7 Israelis inside of Israel this week, it would have been one of the biggest stories in the world, and it would have been all over the media. But Israel killed 700 Palestinians this week, including almost 200 children, and yet there's little outrage from our politicians or from our media. It barely made the inside pages of the newspapers, and the BBC's initial coverage might just as well have come from a speak-your-weight machine. I'm joined today by our special guest, Dr. Hanan Ashrawi. Hanan, thank you so much for joining us. The Israeli Foreign Minister, Israel Katz, this week said to camera, the first Sinwar destroyed Gaza, and the second Sinwar will bring its complete ruin. Soon the evacuation of the population from combat zones will resume, and what follows will be far more severe. Can you tell us, Hanan, what Sinwar means?
Well, he's referring, of course, to Hamas leadership. And so this is very clear. I mean, they're 2 brothers, and they killed most of Hamas leadership anyway, military leadership. But this is more of a reflection on the way not just Israel Katz thinks, but the whole Israeli body politic, the whole Israeli government, the extreme right-wing coalition, fascist coalition in Israel. They constantly try to blame the other side. They blame the victim, that it's Sinwar who destroyed Gaza, and the other one will do. And in particular, this guy, Israel Katz, I mean, he combines both ignorance and violence, this violent urge, and in a sense, an attempt to prove himself that he can be even more extreme and more fascist than Netanyahu and Keir and the others. So this statement is an attempt at obfuscation, at changing the whole discourse, at blaming the other, at avoiding responsibility, but also at legitimizing the genocide that has been resumed, that is ongoing. And this is the danger. Not only don't they have a critical distance from themselves and what they're doing, but they are also attempting to superimpose on the world conscience or perceptions the fact that not only are the Palestinians demonized and dehumanized and so on, but that it is normal to blame the Palestinians and for Israel to pursue its carnage and ethnic cleansing and genocide in Palestine.
Hanan, can I ask you, what do you think that Netanyahu, Katz, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, all the rest of them have planned for the Palestinian people if they are allowed to get away with it?
Well, you don't need to extrapolate, or to try a critical analysis, because they say it outright. They've been saying this all along, that they want, first of all, they want to destroy the chances of any Palestinian statehood, sovereignty, etc., or self-determination. But 2, they want to expand, Israel to expand, to take over all of Palestine, i.e. Greater Israel would be superimposed on all of Palestine. Hence, this plan for the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, for the genocide, for the demographic engineering in Palestine, how to get rid of as many Palestinians as possible and to annex as much land as possible, particularly in the West Bank. Now in Gaza, of course, the plan is to evacuate Gaza, and they found a partner to expel all the Palestinians from Gaza, and they found a partner in Trump. And they keep saying now they are implementing the Trump plan. But Mark, let me make this clear, that the fundamentalist Zionist agenda from the beginning has been to get rid of the Palestinians. I mean, from the beginning, as Ilan Pape said, the ethnic cleansing of Palestine began not just in 48, but even before 1948, and even before, in the sense that they wanted to expel the Palestinians physically, the indigenous people, from their historical homeland, and to bring in people from outside, provided they are Jewish, in order to serve the Zionist agenda and to create not only a demographic imbalance, but also to create a Jewish state on the land of Palestine. And this has been in the making for a long time. It was before implemented gradually, even sometimes below the radar, and so on, with land annexation and expansion and the building of settlements and the importing of settlers and so on. Now it has, it is clear in plain sight. Now it has taken on proportions and magnitudes that are way beyond any, conscience to encompass, in the sense that the ethnic cleansing of Gaza is taking on all the dimensions of the crime of genocide, according to the convention, and at the same time, the land theft and so on, war crimes and crimes against humanity are ongoing, and they say it openly. No Palestinian state, no two-state solution, and that this is all historical, biblical land that was granted to the Jews, and therefore they are mixing this fundamentalist ideology with a geopolitical plan to erase Palestine and to replace it with Israel. And this is ongoing. The erasure of Palestine is taking on many different shapes, many different expressions, whether the history or the culture and so on, but now it is in terms of the people themselves.
Well, Hanan, as you know, since early March, Israel's cut off all food, all medicine, all fuel, all electricity, and other supplies to Gaza's population. Constitutes a very clear breach of international law. Resumed its deadly airstrikes, and for good measure managed to blow up the only cancer hospital in Gaza the other day. Reappointed Israeli cabinet minister Itamar Ben-Gvir said on Wednesday of the Palestinians: annihilate, smash, eradicate, erase, crush, shatter, burn, be cruel, punish, ruin, crush, annihilate. This is what he said. Britain's Foreign Secretary David Lammy responded to the Israelis by saying that it is difficult to see how Israel denying aid to Gaza can be compatible with international law. But he was immediately slapped down, as you know, by the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and he then backed down on his statement. Hanan, what is your message for Keir Starmer?
I don't have enough time on the show to tell you my message to Keir Starmer. Frankly speaking, I think the self-serving political agendas and ideologies of the West, particularly in the becoming an appendage subservient to American policies and American imperial stand, that this is undermining not just the chances of any type of peace or stability in the region, not just betraying Palestinian rights, not just violating international law, international humanitarian law, and also the multilateral system and the judicial global system. They are also undermining their own standing and their own credibility and their own integrity, because people see this. I mean, look, governments are taking such opportunistic and dishonest positions, and yet the public, everywhere, publics are questioning their own governments. They know more than their governments, or they are challenging the policy decisions of the governments and the pablum or the language or the gaslighting of the leadership. And it is important for leaders to understand ultimately that they are going to be held to account, that you cannot hide the truth anymore, that you cannot get away with being complicit in Israel's genocide and the carnage taking place in Gaza. And the words that you heard from Ben-Gvir and others, this is the agenda. They are not just words, they are actions taking place in broad sight, and everybody is seeing this. And yet they're playing, verbal games now and saying yes and no, and maybe a violation of international law. It's a violation of every precept, every concept, every moral norm in the world. And yet they are allowing them to continue, and they are continuing with their support, including weapons, intelligence, bases, and so on.
I think, it's very, very clear from all that we've heard from the international institutions that know about these things, from Palestinians, from people right around the world, about international law being broken repeatedly and a genocide effectively taking place. And the British government acknowledged that with David Lammy's statement that we talked about. Now, just a specific question. I don't know if you're able to say anything about this, Hanan, but we know that RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus has been used as a hub for military operations and for surveillance of Gaza. We understand that surveillance by the RAF continued during the ceasefire. And I wonder if it is the case that British service personnel have been instructed to carry out orders that may be illegal under international law, what comeback, again, should there be for a British government that has sanctioned this sort of behaviour?
Yeah, exactly. I think accountability should be applied across the board. It is not just Israel that is carrying out a genocide. There's governments who are continuing to supply it with weapons, who are continuing to allow it to use its bases, like the British base in Cyprus. It is governments that are supplying it with intelligence, like the British government. So these people are definitely complicit in the genocide itself, and they cannot escape it. Sooner or later, they will have to be held to account. There will be consequences. They cannot continue with this, disguising reality and attempting to circumvent what's happening and so on. This complicity now is very clear, and they have to understand that they will be considered part of a genocide that took place. And right now, they may be able to intimidate maybe the ICC or the ICJ, but I think at one point they will see themselves also held accountable before these international courts.
Hanan, a moment ago you mentioned the Israeli government's use of the Trump plan. We've seen these leaflets showing images of both Netanyahu and Trump, and using the most extraordinary biblical genocidal language imaginable. So my question is, does President Trump's idea that Gaza can be ethnically cleansed to make way for his golf courses and condominiums and become an American colony have any basis in reality now or in the future?
No, never. I don't know. This I can't say it's cloud cuckoo land, but I think he's not dealing with reality at all. And when people don't understand the history, the culture, and of course the legal and moral imperatives of dealing with Palestine, then they are liable to take positions and decisions that are extremely dangerous, right? And employing, as we said, fundamentalist, whether Old Testament ideology or fundamentalist, it's calling on others to lay claim to the word of God in order to justify their geopolitical positions and changes. But I think this is extremely dangerous, irresponsible. There is no way in which you can carry out the expulsion of a whole people, or you can ethnically cleanse Gaza. There are 2 million people who have been battered, bombed, massacred, everything in their lives destroyed, including whole families, schools, universities, churches, mosques, everything. The water system, the electricity system. And they're being starved to death. At the same time, they are also holding them captive in a state of siege, entirely vulnerable, without any protection whatsoever. And so you end up with these statements from Trump and Netanyahu, thinking that they can reinforce each other. Mm-hmm. Some people say it is the tail wagging the dog. It is, Israel imposing on Trump. But many people also believe that this is Trump's ideology because, of Of course, he has his own personal interests, the same way as Netanyahu has his own personal interest to pursue the genocide and to maintain a lethal fascist coalition in place to avoid going to prison himself, and so on. So he has his own personal agenda, in the same way as Trump has his own personal agenda. And when these populist fascists, I would say, meet, their interests meet, they come up with the most horrendous discourse, political discourse, that is entirely not only unacceptable, but unapplicable. The Palestinians stayed in their land and they are going to stay on their land, even if it means, continuing the carnage, the massacres, the killing, and even if it means in the West Bank continuing also the daily attacks, the theft of land, the destruction of the refugee camps, as we are seeing, in order to claim that there are no refugees and to try to avoid the refugee question. So this language, this shared language, I think will allow both of them ultimately to implode, because when they come face to face with reality, they're going to be unable to force their own decisions and their own policies.
Now, Hanan, global opinion, as you know, is firmly with the Palestinian people. But many people have this question. It comes up all of the time. What is the problem, people say, with the political leadership in the Arab world? Countries such as Saudi Arabia clearly do have leverage with Trump. So why are they failing to use it?
Yeah, this is not new, actually. The Palestinians feel in many ways betrayed and abandoned. I don't want to talk about a single Arab country. I mean, it's the whole world in many ways, other than the public, other than public opinion and people of conscience. And of course, the South that has stood by Palestine. But the Arab world is not monolithic, and the leaderships are not all of the same ilk, of course. Many of them rely on the West, rely on the US, rely on external forces for their own legitimacy and longevity and power, to stay in power. Like all non-democratic systems, they don't rely on their own people and the approval of their own constituency in order to stay in power, because lacking accountability within a democratic system, all they need to do is please their patron. And this is... And what is ironic is that they don't need that patron, is that they have within their own people and their own system and their own resources, they have inherent power that they can use, and they're not using it. Once they are in sync with their own people and with the requirements of genuine peace and stability in the region, they will take positions in order to influence, the interests, at least, of the West, because Trump, wants to make deals and he wants money and he wants investments. Israel sort of takes everything from the US and gives nothing, while the Arabs give, the rich Arab states give all the funding and the support and so on and get nothing in return. So once you address these things and you address the lack of democratic accountability and decision-making within the Arab countries, once they listen to their own people, then you will begin to see a change. And some governments have cast their lot with the Israelis, unfortunately, and we see that. It's very, very shameful, but still, Israel will continue to wreak havoc within the region, not just in Palestine, throughout the region and even beyond, because it is the epitome, it is the quintessential impunity of lack of regard for human rights, for lives, and for a global rule of law and international law and humanitarian law. And should they keep getting away with it, this is the lesson they're sending to the rest of the world. So the Arab countries should not feel that they are safe or immune, because they may be next on the agenda. And we saw what they're doing now in Lebanon, what they're doing in Syria, for heaven's sake, that attacking, bombing, and taking land. This is what Israel does. It bombs, destroys, it kills, and it steals. This is the policy. And they will go beyond that, because there are fundamentalist, extremist voices that are talking about the land of Israel as extending way beyond even Jordan, reaching Iraq and Syria and whatever. So if they don't understand that this is really not just a clash of civilizations, but of ideologies, that the Arab world is being challenged as a whole, and the tip of the iceberg is Palestine. This is the acid test.
Mm,
They allow Palestine to be lost, to be destroyed, if they allow all these horrific crimes to take place against Palestine, Israel is not going to stop anywhere because it has never honored a signed agreement. It has never followed any kind of law or rule of law. It has never honored any kind of ceasefire and so on. It goes its own way. And when there is an opportunity to pursue these lethal policies in Palestine and beyond, they will do it. And this is a warning signal, I think. And the Arabs are beginning to feel slightly insecure that they may, even if they hide behind the US or other countries, that the US is not a stable partner, that it might change at will, and that Israel quite often does impose the policy on the US as it sees fit, and lacking accountability, who's to stop it?
Hannah, many have said that what we're seeing unfold in Gaza and in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, throughout the occupied territories, is a second Nakba. You just talked about Israel's expansion to Syria, its wars into Lebanon, and its ultimate aims. The question is, do you think that this Nakba is now, the second Nakba is worse than the first? And do you see any hope of Israelis and Palestinians eventually living together in peace?
I mean, it's hard to think of the Nakba as being worse than the other. The Nakba is an ultimate injustice. And what we are seeing now is a continuation of the original Nakba. Is that the ongoing Nakba that we called it from the beginning. And as I said from the beginning also, that this is the policy of Israel. Sometimes overt, sometimes covert, sometimes in plain sight, and sometimes below the radar. But this is the plan for Israel. And it has been taking place. So this is one phase of the Nakba. There have been many phases, but this is one of the most painful, most horrific, most destructive phases, with the aim, as they say openly, of totally ending the Palestinian question according to the Israeli plan. It's very clear that they feel that they have an opportunity now to destroy the indigenous people, to destroy the Palestinians, to expand towards greater Israel, and to carry out these plans that were totally unthinkable before. And now they are, and they're unconscionable. So I would say this is the most painful, the most destructive. I mean, many Zionists say they should have completely eradicated the Palestinian people and evacuate and destroyed them and expelled them in 1948. But now they want to finish the job.
Right.
And all those who are telling them finish the job don't just mean finish the job in Gaza and destroy the Gazan people or expel them or kill them or completely eradicate Gaza. There's very little left in Gaza, as you know. Over 70%, 75% of all buildings, homes have been destroyed. And when they say finish the job, it's destroy Gaza, yes, but also finish the job of establishing greater Israel on all of historical Palestine, and therefore whatever you do in Gaza and the West Bank and even beyond is justified. And they use any means and every means in order to inflict as much pain and to create a reign of terror everywhere so that they can implement this plan. So this is an ongoing Nakba, and we are seeing, I don't want to say the end result, but we are seeing a very serious escalation at this stage.
Hanan, these are such dark and despairing times, but I'm just wondering, finally, if you've got a message for the hundreds of thousands of people right across the world who march and demonstrate and speak up and lobby their elected representatives and push and campaign week after week in support of the Palestinians. Have you got a message for them?
Well, I have lots of messages. It's a message of love, of appreciation, of understanding, of hope They are the only people who are providing the Palestinians with hope, with the sense that they are not alone, they are not abandoned. And the more they speak out, we know that they are paying a price. We know that there are counter forces that are, as is happening in the US and in Europe, many European countries in the West. But these are people of courage, people of integrity, people of conscience, people who will stand up regardless of the price. They are not as intimidated like the governments. They do not have personal self-interest to serve. They are motivated by their own principles, by their own sense of morality. My message is one that the Palestinians always repeat, is that we love these people. We see them, we appreciate what they're doing, and we know the prices they are paying, especially now we're talking about Rachel Corrie, for example, and others, Tom Herndon, and others who were killed in defending Palestine. But these people are living the right life. They are living in order to ensure that they embody the principles that are important to humanity as a whole. Not the slogans and cliches of a rules-based order and respect for human rights and so on that are totally violated, but they are living the real sense of value that makes life worth living. And therefore, they are the ones who are giving the Palestinians hope. And they are a source of encouragement, hope, and they tell us that all is not lost. And I think these are the people who will be the leaders of their own countries. Eventually, they will be the decision makers. Right now, they are being maybe beaten up or hosed or whatever, or imprisoned even, or detained. But ultimately, they will be in a position to take decisions, and hopefully they will be the antidote to all the mistakes, to all the evils, let's say, of the current system.
Dr. Hanan Ashrawi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you've enjoyed and appreciated what we've heard today from Dr. Hanan Ashrawi, do please think about supporting the work of Palestine Deep Dive. From as little as £1 a month, that's all you have to spend, possibly more if you'd like to. Please go to palestinedeepdive.com/support. That's palestinedeepdive.com/support.